Hey Bullets YouTube channel.
Hurry up, now tell us why you're here.
Joe Gears Racing almost quit the Piston Cup for the season, but Matt Karzeth and Carl Edwards refused to give up. And Craig Shiftwright gave a warning to Joey Logierno and Brad Tarslowski. Samuel Serpentino and Bogart Hopscotch apologized to each other before practice. And the Wheelhouse brothers, Mike and Kenny, both retired from Piston Cup racing, but will continue to race in the lower divisions. Rex Revler accidentally caused a crash that wrecked some cars, and now they will all be out this race, including Rex Revler. I feel bad for everyone involved in the crash. And then Will Draftrev said this, and then he would go on to fail to qualify for this race. Cal Weathers was unable to make it to the track on time because of a traffic jam. So his cousin Hank Weathers took part in qualifying for his cousin Cal. Now to the starting grid, where Jimmy Cables will start at pole position with Bobby Swift to his outside. Row 2 has Martin Carrix Jr. and Brick Yardley to his outside. I wonder how he'll do today. Row 3 has Kevin Carvick and Jamarcus Kakart having a very good qualifying run. And Row 4 has TG Castlenut and Carl Edwards to his outside. I wonder how he'll do this race. Row 5 has Bad Brad Tarslowski and Dale Earnhardt Jr. to his outside. I wonder how he'll do this race. Row 6 has the mean yellow red car, Joey Logierno and Phil Tankson to his outside. Row 7 has Chip Gearings and Lightning McQueen, surprisingly not in the first few rows. Row 8 has Clint Bokar and James Garrison, a popular team owner, to his outside. Row 9 has Sebastian Silva with Kyle Carson to his outside. And in row 10, we have Billy Carjoy, number 100, and Todd Marcus to his outside in the number 123. Row 11 has Maury Clutchburn and Red Meeker to his outside. And in row 12, we have Greg People and Gert Bushtire to his outside. And in row 13, we have Casey Corner and Speedy Comet to his outside, who did pretty well in practice. Row 14 has the Rocket Ryan Newcar and Cal Williams to his outside. And row 15 has Ernie Gearson, who did really well in qualifying, and Carl Clutchin to his outside. Row 16 has Ricky Axel, who surprisingly qualified for this race, and Doug Throttleman. Row 17 has Jack DePost and Pitbull Speed Racer, who also surprisingly qualified for this race. Row 18 has Ace Arrowhead making his first start this season, same with Frank Rumerson to his outside. Row 19 also has another pair of cars making their first start this season, Bruce Miller and Brian Sparks. Row 20 has Slate Granger and Matt Karzeth, who does not do well during qualifying. Row 21 has Rev Rodages and Cal Weathers, who only barely qualifies because he needed his cousin Hank to qualify for him. And starting in 43rd is Mark Outerbrakes, who surprisingly beats these 9 cars, among many others, to qualify for this race. Now into the race, where Jimmy Cables would lead the first 14 laps of the race, but then Joey Logierno would be 16th as of lap 14, where he wrecks Phil Tankson. Why? And then Lightning McQueen would take the lead after the restart and lead until lap 36, where he'd lose the lead to Bobby Swift, who would lead for 10 laps before losing the lead to Cal Weathers, who would lead all the way until lap 53, where Bobby Swift would retake the lead. He would lead all the way until lap 55, where he'd lose the lead to Jamarcus Kakart, who would lead for 4 laps before losing the lead to Lightning McQueen, who would lead all the way until lap 63, where Cal Weathers would retake the lead. He would lead until lap 68, where he'd lose the lead to Brick Yardley, who would lead for 2 laps until lap 70, where surprisingly, Ricky Axel would take the lead, leading for 5 laps before Speedy Comet would take the lead. He would lead until lap 76 off of pit cycles, but after the pit stops were done, Cal Weathers would retake the lead, leading for 2 more laps before Frank Rumerson would take the lead, taking the lead on lap 77. But Bad Brad Tarslowski would fail to wreck Frank Rumerson on lap 77. But Brick Yardley would retake the lead on lap 77, leading until lap 84, where Bobby Swift would retake the lead. He would lead for 11 more laps before Lightning McQueen would take the lead on lap 95, the same as his number. But later on lap 95, Bobby Swift would retake the lead, leading into lap 96, where Chip Gearings would take the lead. He would lead for 2 laps, but Matt Kenseth would be second as of lap 98, where he wrecks Chip Gearings. Why Matt Kenseth? And then Bobby Swift would take the lead after the restart, taking the lead on lap 99. But on lap 133, Lightning McQueen would retake the lead, leading for 2 more laps before TG Castlenut would take the lead from Self, leading for 8 laps before Speedy Comet would take the lead once again, and he would lead for 60 laps? How does Speedy Comet lead for 60 consecutive laps? And then he would be out on lap 203 because of an engine failure, and then Ernie Gearson would go into the garage because he was too tired on the next lap. And then Bobby Swift would take the lead after the restart on lap 204 and lead into lap 236. Mark Outerbrakes would go down a lap on lap 226, and Slate Granger would go down a lap on lap 229. Who takes the lead from Bobby Swift? Cal Weathers would take the lead from Bobby Swift, leading all the way until lap 273. But Bobby Swift would retake the lead, leading all the way until lap 284. Where Lightning McQueen would once again retake the lead, leading for 3 more laps before Jimmy Cables would retake the lead, leading all the way until lap 293, where Lightning McQueen would retake the lead. He would lead all the way until lap 314, but on lap 314, Ace Arrowhead would be 10th as of that lap, where he wrecks Matt Kenseth and himself. Both would be out next race. And Matt Kenseth is now quitting Piston Cup racing for the rest of the season. Joe Gears is also quitting Piston Cup racing for the rest of the season. But his other racer, Carl Edwards, is not quitting Piston Cup racing for the rest of the season. Which means that Carl Edwards will be racing without a team for the rest of the season. And Piston Cup officials are attempting to suspend Ace Arrowhead for what he did. This would lead Piston Cup fans to attack Piston Cup official Tom and other officials, which means that Piston Cup officials are no longer going to suspend Ace Arrowhead because of the attacks. And Bobby Swift would take the lead after the restart. While Bobby was in the lead, Slate Granger would get back on the lead lap on lap 335, and Rep Meeker would be out on lap 339 because of an engine failure. And Todd Marcus would take the lead on lap 339 from Bobby Swift and lead into lap 344. But Joey Laguna would fail to wreck James Garrison on lap 344. And then Todd Marcus would be out on lap 344 because he hit the wall really hard. Lightning McQueen would take the lead on lap 345 after the restart and lead for 10 laps before Bobby Swift would take the lead from Self, leading the final 45 laps to win the 2016 Rev & Go 400. Getting his first win of the season, narrowly beating Lightning McQueen, who finished second this race, only losing by 10 feet. Cal Weathers, who finished third this race, Kevin Carvick fourth, Kurt Busch-Tire fifth, Jimmy Cable sixth, James Garrison seventh, Brick Yardley eighth, Carl Edwards ninth, and Jamarcus Cakehart rounding out the top 10. Rev Rodages would be the last car to finish on the lead lap this race, finishing 34th. And here are the race results, where I already went over the top 10. With Jamarcus Cakehart getting his first top 10 of the season, with Martin Carrix Jr. missing out on a top 10. Same with the Rocket Ryan Newcar, TG Castlenut, Kyle Carson, and Dale Earnhardt Jr., rounding out the top 15. Bad Brad Keselowski did not finish in the top 15, with Ricky Axel right behind him in 17th, Maury Clutchburn in 18th, ahead of the mean yellow red car Joey Logierno, and Greg Beeple rounding out the top 20. Casey Corner earns 100 points this race, with Cal Williams, Doug Throttleman, Sebastian Silva, and Carl Clutchen rounding out the top 25, with Billy Carjoy in 26th, followed by Frank Frumerson, Clint Bokar, Pitbull Speed Racer, and Brian Sparks in the top 30. Jack DePost, Bruce Miller, and Slate Granger all finish on the lead lap alongside Rev Rodages. Mark Outerbrakes did not wreck out, but he finishes the race 1 lap down. And here are all the cars who were unable to finish the race. Now, on to the points, where Lightning McQueen still leads the points, with Cal Weathers now second, Bobby Swift third, Martin Carrix Jr. fourth, and Jimmy Cables still rounding out the top 5, with Kevin Carvick in 6th, followed by Carl Edwards, Kurt Busch-Tire, James Garrison, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. rounding out the top 10, with Casey Corner, the Rocket, Ryan Newcar, Bad Brad Keselowski, Joey Logierno, and Brick Yardley rounding out the top 15. And rounding out the top 20 is Kyle Carson, Speedy Comet, Denny Carlin somehow, and Matt Karzith, with Sebastian Silva being 16 points behind him in 21st.
Remember to press the notifications button, which goes ring, ring, ring after you press it. And lightning strikes back, and that's as if you subscribed, of course. And thank you for watching this entire video.
Imagine if this happened as a result of Hank Weathers not being fast enough in qualifying. It would have been the first time since 1969 that there was no Dynaco car in the field. Because, don't forget, Cal Weathers and his uncle, the King Strip Weathers, qualified for every single race that they attempted to qualify for. And these races go all the way back to 1969. Over 45 years ago, and over 1,600 Piston Cup races ago. But luckily for Team Dynaco, Hank Weathers was fast enough during qualifying to get his cousin Cal to the race. Now, on to the next video, which will be covering the 7th race of 2016. The video covering the 7th race of the 2016 Piston Cup season will be coming out soon enough. And hopefully, Cal Weathers will have an easier time qualifying for the race. But unfortunately, the people of Ukraine do not have it very easy right now because there is a war going on, an unjustified war that was started by the tyrant and bully, Vladimir Putin. The Ukrainian people just wanted to live in peace and have freedom, but many have lost their homes because of the bombings. And this war has been going on for over 2 years now. Currently, the Ukrainian territories of Crimea, the Donbass, and parts of the Kharkiv, Zaporizhia, and Kherson Oblasts are currently being ruled by Vladimir Putin's tyranny. But despite this, Ukraine has taken control over some areas of Russia's Kursk and Bryansk Oblasts. We here at the KA Bullets Piston Cup YouTube channel stand with Ukraine in their struggle against Vladimir Putin's tyranny, and also recognize Ukraine's true borders as shown by this map. Slava Ukraini! Heroyam slava! Nechai Shvitya Daroretsia! Ukraini Peremoa! Glory to Ukraine! Glory to the heroes! May Ukraine be granted victory very soon.